Hello, welcome to the channel 12-Step Guide. My name's Troy. Today is April in 2025. Recently, the world lost an inspirational leader. I'm speaking to the world in hopes to make things better. If I could just leave an inspirational message. Strive to be a part of the solution. At least don't be a part of the problem. Thank you. So, I've dabbled with when to speak more about myself. I'm just going to tip my hand a little bit today so you can understand just a little bit. So I'm pissed off. I've been pissed off for a year. But it's a motivating anger. I don't feel it like bubbling up or anything. For a year I've known I was going to do this channel. And I just simply didn't know when. And one day I decided, I set a date, enough's enough. Here I am, pulled out whatever I had. Graphics are what they are. Voice is what it is. Here I am. We can always get better. So just briefly, and I'm going to move on. Today we're going to visit how it works in the big book. We're building up to step one. Understand Bill Wilson, better Bill W. and whatnot. We'll get to that in a minute. A year ago I had an incident occur where a drug addict, methamphetamine drug dealer crossed my path. He's now doing 40 years in jail. I believe the state is just as culpable as he is in this whole thing. We're going to do a case study on it eventually. Not right now. You know, the way I'm dealing with my anger right now is I'm going to start from the beginning and I'm going to teach you everything I know about Alcoholics Anonymous and whatever that other business is, that down the road when maybe someone else can hear it, you want to hear it, whatever. We're going to start from the beginning today. Anyway, there was a time when I was a educator. I worked at the Department of Corrections as a substance abuse counselor. I was through a treatment center. I never worked directly for them. But anyway, we were educating 2,000, educating the state, and there was 100 corrections officers. It was humbling. We were educating the state, me as part of a team, about the initial heroin epidemic. Eventually, methamphetamine, and then now fentanyl, which is an opiate. We got a long way to go. Anyway, hopefully this process helps. Moving on. You know, at 11 or 12, I started in Alateen. My mother's got 10 years on me. She's sober 10 years. I've been sober 38 years. You know, when I was 14, if my grandmother could have had one of those gadgets, a button there you push, emergency services, you know, it would have gone something like this. Emergency services, how can we help? I've fallen and I can't get up. Ma'am, someone will be right down to help you. Bring a bottle of coffee brandy. Moving on. At 22, 28-day treatment centers later and some other detox, I got sober. Did 2 AA meetings a day for 5 years. I've done other 12-step, but we're focusing largely on AA right now. Alcoholics Anonymous saved my life. Saved my mother's life. So, you know, I'm going to talk a whole lot about a whole lot of things, even beyond Alcoholics Anonymous. This is, we're not at an AA meeting here. I'm educating the masses. I'm hoping to anyway. Well, I think that probably covers that pretty well. So let's move right on. Right. All right. So Alcoholics Anonymous. I've got the original book that was recently released by Bill W. Today there's another book. It's a blue one. The pages numbers had changed. They moved the doctor's opinion around and stuff. So in my book, it's page 70. Now, it's a we program, not a me program. And so someone, this comments, this is a YouTube channel, somebody in the comments, if you could put what page number is there for the newer version. And I also encourage the listeners, consider those comments. I mean, there's going to be a wide range here, you're going to think for yourself. But there's a whole lot of other people in recovery with their own experiences. I'm not trying to corner the market on any of that, I assure you. They've helped me tremendously, people. They're important in my life, and everybody's got their own experience. And collectively, we're a higher power when it comes to confronting addiction, addictive behaviors, emotional suffering, things like that. All right, so first about the author, Bill Wilson. He had been in for World War I. He was a stock speculator. That was his job. He was quite educated. He was a smart man. The books, Alcoholics Anonymous, and the later book, 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, they're college-level material, in my opinion. Bill never liked to repeat himself. So you might hear things like, just an example, talking about when making a business inventory and then changing it to when making a commercial inventory. And he was saying the same thing, just business, it was the same thing. But it could be confusing. Those are just a couple examples. There was plenty. He didn't like to repeat himself. And, well, college-level material and some big words and expressions. There's a large part of our population that doesn't read that well. There's a large part of people in the Department of Corrections, inmates, that have a very limited reading skill. I know that from direct experience at the Department of Corrections. I know it because I've been to thousands of 12-step meetings. A message to the individual, if that's you and you're at a meeting, take the time to read if it comes to you. People in the meetings, they have time for you. I've seen it many a time. I've seen people learn to read, try to read. They're on your side. I haven't been to a 12-step meeting in 20 years, but it's pretty fresh in my mind. Anyway, these are challenges when you're in the program and not quite understanding the information. So it's my intention to get you the information you need to know to better understand what's being said, so that you can better think for yourself and consider the information coming from others. So let's just start here in Chapter 5, how it works. It is the 12 steps beginning. It's the 12 steps. Okay, we're gonna get there, and we'll get to step 1. Pretty much step 1 is read the book. You'll come to a finding. We're gonna get to step 1 here soon, so we can get better information than that. But anyway, this is in meetings I would frequently have if I were chairing the meeting, running the meeting, where everybody takes turns, usually after 90 days sober. But we often read this, but I want to read it verbatim, word for word. But I'm going to at times stop, and I'm going to process this information out a little bit for the listeners. All right, Chapter 5, how it works. Again, the original book, page 70. The later one, look in the comments. Someone will help you with that. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. But what path is that exactly? Well, that's the path of the 12 steps. So some of the issues, well, when do I begin this path? I was told often, I'll do step 1 for the first year, and I'm going to challenge that thinking anyway, but you think for yourself. So now we're going to understand a little bit more about who might be able to get the program and who can't. So those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. So to be constitutionally incapable, there's something in us. He means business. A bird without wings is never going to fly. There's people that really, it's just not, that it's not capable for them, whatever that is. In the first part of that, to give themselves, to completely give themselves to this simple program, I think some adjustments were made later to that concept, but for people like me, complete defeat, admitting complete defeat, and just engaging in the process as best as you can. So if you can completely give yourself over as best as you can, and we're going to get into some of that in the steps, some of the hang-ups and things that there's a whole lot of lateral flexibility, a whole lot of room to maneuver, you know. So we'll get to that as time goes on. So, incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. So I'm going to tell you right now, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness are the keys to the program. That's the side note. Back to the reading. So, rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Now, when I worked at the hospital as a greeting alcoholics and drug addicts, and for 9 years in suicide and mental health, my official title was hospital security. After I left corrections and walked away from everything, at some point, somewhere in the videos, you'll learn more about that. I took a job there at the hospital, and so I got to spend quality time with many different people, and I understand the varying amounts and moving on. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. That's a basic concept in the program when you're speaking or reading, and that's what the book is. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. He's being honest. We thought we could find an easier, softer way. But we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to old ideas, and the results was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, drugs, food, gambling, whatever your translation is, addictive behaviors, the pain, the emotional suffering of having dealt with this because of others, the lies. Anyway, it's cunning, baffling, and powerful. It's a higher power in itself. You put drugs and alcohol in your system, you want to understand a higher power. Watch a drug addict or alcoholic in motion, you'll see it quick enough. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Now, I want to visit a couple of things here. There's a whole range of people with experiences. Bill was in the war. We're going to visit his story. He didn't just buy into this, oh, let's all, put on our Sunday best, and why didn't you just tell me all along? I'd have gotten sober. God as you understand him. The entity, make the translation. Why is that important? You may have no understanding at all, and that is what it is. You may have great understanding. At some point, you may want to have a different understanding. Your experiences may lead you one way or another. Whatever that is, take a position. You'll have time to do some math. Don't let it hang you up. Whatever that is today, just let it be. But this part's clear. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. Now, in the last, and I'm going to read these, but I'm not going to just read them one after another without some interjection, because I want you to understand the original, what was going on now. This is the original version. I believe the 12 steps ease back on some of these concepts because, well, the first 100 were the worst of the worst, such as myself. But then there was later people coming in that maybe hadn't gone down that scale so bad. And anyway, Bill got sober in a 4-step program. There appears to be components of the steps, we're going to see it in Bill's story as we progress, that seem to reflect some of what's happening here. Early AA was practicing some 6 steps. So there was a variety of different material being considered when the book was released, and some of this might provide you some insight into the writer. So we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. That's step 1. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. There's that, as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. A lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous don't understand this step, how to do it. There's a real way to do it. There's a safe way to do it. I'm going to blow your mind with it when we get into it. And it'll be right out of the Alcoholics Anonymous material. 1939, it's like, my goodness, when you see it, you understand it, you do it, and what comes from that. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Now, step 8, first thing you see when you read step 8 in the book is it tells you already got a list in hand. You made it when you took your inventory. It's really a remarkable thing. It's ingenious. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Now, these next 3 I perceive as daily steps. For me, others might see it differently, but you think for yourself and ask yourself if you could do these on a daily basis, if you wanted to. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Checking your behavior on a daily basis, and if you've done something wrong, admit to it. Not letting things add up more, because they're typically the addict, especially alcoholic, coming into the program, they've made all kinds of wrong, pissed all kinds of people off. They're pissed off. Everything's upside down, depending on the nature of what's happened. And dealing with that stuff's a little more complicated. But this, if you made a mistake or pick it over at the end of the day or whatever, you can make a difference? Be good if you could do that. Anyway. So 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand Him, as you understand Him. Praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. We're going to get into a lot of that again. There's a lot of lateral flexibility. Bill was influenced by the first 100. We're going to look at his story. We're going to look what he said in the material. We're going to look at the 12-step book, and we're going to make some interpretations and ask ourselves, we're going to look at how it went for him. A lot of this stuff didn't just come that easy for him, and I'm just trying to find the lateral flexibility. One person might have no problem with these things, another person might be like, what are you talking about? So whatever, we'll get there. Keep an open mind, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, that's all. Step 12, very, very important step. This is the step that allowed Bill Wilson to bounce off the barroom doors after his stock speculation went bad out there in Akron, Ohio, and go find Dr. Bob, the co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, and do a 12-step call on him and return us Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a tremendously important step. What I'm doing today is 12-step work. Now there's another type of 12-step that's done in 2 steps, 1 and 12, and that's a story, I guess, for another day. Step 12, before a minor change was made. Having had a spiritual experience as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Later, a minor change was made, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. And then it continues. So many of us exclaimed, what an order, I can't go through with it. Bill, he knew, right? He knew. You're not lying. You're not saying, maybe it's a challenge. But are you happy with your life? Do you not regret the past or wish to shut the door on it? Do you want to know serenity, comprehend the word peace? Would you maybe help others to be able to do that? If it's not hard to see who could benefit a little, maybe if you thought some information would help them or you'd like to help, we'll get you good information on that. So many of us exclaimed, what an order, I can't go through with it. Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. Well, I assure you I'm not. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. There's a whole lot to us, I believe, the human, that we're capable of, that we may not even understand. Intuition, we spoke about that on a previous. Instincts born in us. How much information do we have access to from our ancestors, for example? I don't know. There's a whole lot going on up in the brain. Say the brain makes pure heroin, pure opiate, 100%. Okay, so we may all be influenced in some way, your young escapades, maybe with sexual interests or some romantic, we'll say, and it's all shaky how you feel, other things. There's a lot going on up there in serotonin, and we're a unique being, I think. Anyway, moving on. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Is there other ways to potentially say that if you could hear it better? Progress, right? We strive for progress. If you can put the drink down and keep it down and get a look at yourself and use the meetings as a higher power to help. I said it before, Alcoholics Anonymous saved my life. It's there's a whole lot of assistance out there. And I had said it before, if you tried a 12-step program and it didn't work for you, something went wrong. Stick with the channel. Let's figure out what that is. I'll cover it. I've been at this a while. We're going to get into all kinds of helpful stuff about the process and what you might expect to look for. So I'm going to teach you Bill Wilson, AA. We're going to see what Bill did. That's truly what did Bill do, and then you can decide for yourself what works for you. But we'll also put the 1953, because I'm not covering that right now. I'm building AA as they did here, and what's in there and where it begins, because you got two different versions of the steps. You've got the big book and the step book. The big book would come first because it was written first. The step book is meant to deepen and broaden the earlier message, but it did more than that. It altered some of the information, and for good reason. Again, the worst of the worst first 100. I'm one of those, comparatively, but everybody isn't, but they're entitled to recovery also. And the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. There's other programs that have their own, I believe generally, whatever it is, follow similar lines. But in their own programs, dealing with the codependency or dealing with drugs or gambling or overeating, the adjustments. You just make those adjustments, and we'll go from there. Thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful. Have a nice day.
If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Ring the bell to be notified when new content is added. Also, you can support the channel 12-Step Guide with Troyo by donating through PayPal to hsworldservice@yahoo.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time, think. Keep it simple. Live and let live. Feelings aren't facts. Easy does it, but do it. One day at a time, but plan to live tomorrow.